So it's added time for Monday, the 23rd of March. I hope you're doing well, keeping safe and healthy and staying at home during the current pandemic and situation. Today, got some interesting stories and topics to discuss. I will also be answering some of the questions you guys submitted on the community page on my channel later on in the video. But firstly, I just want to ask you guys to hit that subscribe button. As I say with every video now, we are getting closer to 5k subs. The goal was potentially to be at the end of April to get to 5k subs, but it could be before then. So let's make that happen. And I want to thank you guys for your support and good reaction to my previous two videos, especially the transfer video that I made on Saturday, and it's great to see. It's great to see you guys giving your thoughts in the comments below, having a debate about who Chelsea should sign and sell. It's really intriguing, and it really means a lot to me. It's really humbling. So thank you for your support. But let's get into the video. And the name of Antoine Griezmann. Yesterday it was Luka Jovic. Today it's Antoine Griezmann. With Sport claiming that Barcelona are willing to sell Griezmann for a fee in excess of 100 million euros. Manchester United, Chelsea, and PSG are all alerted by their willingness to cash in. I personally think this story is a bit ridiculous, I have to be honest, because firstly, Barca have spent many years trying to get Griezmann from Atletico. They spent a long time trying to sign him, and to just sell him after 1 year, discard him. We have seen stuff like this with Real Madrid and Barca before. They are, known to do this with big players that they sign, and if it doesn't work out, they discard them. Look at Philip Coutinho recently, a similar situation, of course, so it's not out of the question. But in regards to Chelsea, I just don't think Chelsea should be spending this much. If you're going to break the bank, as I said in my transfer video, I think you should be looking for younger players who potentially are going to be world class or are not about to become world class. I think it's just logically more sound to do that, to invest in a player. If you're going to invest that much, which is very rare within a summer window, in any transfer window, I don't think a 29-year-old is a good move personally. Griezmann is an incredible striker, especially on his day. He hasn't been able as much to do it this year for Barcelona, of course, and so many good players go to Barcelona and Real Madrid and struggle. They're not able to replicate their previous form. But I instantly, when I see this news, I think of, Fernando Torres, Gonzalo Higuain, Andrei Shevchenko, players who are past their prime, and I can't see this move happening. I don't think it's that reliable of a source. I don't see why Chelsea would go in for a striker like that for that amount of money. I think maybe PSG could go in for him. I've seen that before. PSG, the sort of club I could see maybe trying to make that move happen. It's going to be interesting for sure what happens with Griezmann and his future and a lot of the big deals that are going to happen this summer. But I personally think this story is a bit rubbish, to be honest. Let me know in the comments. Of course, you'd want Antoine Griezmann, and he could be a player to take you to a Champions League final, but I don't see this happening, and I even don't see him leaving Barcelona anytime soon. Next is about JT. He gave some comments to Frank Khaled. I'm sure many of you follow him on Twitter. Basically, he knows nearly all of the Chelsea players. He's good friends with them, and he met up with JT the other day and interviewed him, I believe, for his YouTube channel. So you can go and check out that interview. Frank asked him about Jadon Sancho, and this is what he said. I think Sancho is one of the best young players in the world at the moment, so he'd be a great addition to the Chelsea squad. It would make us better as well, but the ones that have come through, the Billy Gilmores, Tammy Mason, Reece James, it's endless, isn't it? There have been so many positives this season, so I think every Chelsea fan since I came through the ranks, that's all Chelsea fans wanted to see, the youth team players and the younger generation coming through and making their first team debuts. We've seen that in abundance this year. Firstly, I love the fact that JT still says us when he talks about Chelsea, even though he's working for Aston Villa. He did it when we played them, I believe in December. He was interviewed after the game and he said the similar, icon of Chelsea, captain, the legend. It's, so endearing to see how much it means to him and how much Chelsea means to him and will always mean to him. So whenever he speaks, you listen, like any of the big Chelsea legends, whenever they speak, you want to hear what they're saying. And of course, someone who's working in the game, coaching within the game, and I'm sure will be a manager sooner rather than later. Of course, Jadon Sancho is one of the best, young players in the world at the moment. And I think, it's a pretty, obvious answer. How much he knows in terms of, keeping in contact with Frank, how that situation is, it'd be intriguing to me just as a fan to think how much him and Frank are in contact at the moment with both of their careers now in coaching. But I definitely agree with him. This youth revolution has been the big thing. And the thing I want to ask you guys is, as much as we want investment, how is that going to affect younger players? Because it's all about that balancing act with Frank now. He's embedded a lot of the young players, but it's about adding to that, but not disrupting the balance and the harmony of that squad. Because as Frank commented himself, he wants to give young players a chance. Now, Jadon Sancho is a younger player, but it's not the same. You know, you're buying a massive player here and bringing him in for first team football. How would that impact the academy graduates who've come into the side this year and have got chances? I think that's the big challenge for Frank Lampard. It's recruiting smartly, bringing in players that are going to help Chelsea and improve Chelsea in vital areas. But it's as well trying to keep that balance of still having a healthy selection of players and still having that route between academy and first team, which Lampard has created and I think needs to keep going. We can't just discard it after 1 year because we want to bring in players. I think that's the key balancing act, and as well something fans have to consider as well. But let me know your opinions. Of course, I spoke about Jadon Sancho in my transfer video. He's going to continue to be mentioned because everyone wants him. But I have seen people in the comments talk about Jeremy Boga as well, who's a player who's highly rated. But let me know your opinions on JT's comments and Jadon Sancho as well. But I just want to end today's video with your questions that you submitted yesterday. Put up the post, and you can also send your questions. I'll probably be putting more posts on my community page that you can check out and answer in the coming weeks, because that's what I want to do on added time, make it more of a question and answer session, and as well on Twitter at Son of Chelsea. But let's get into it. Baggy TV asks, has Lampard done what is expected from him this season? Yes, I think it's tough to answer, isn't it? Because we don't have a conclusion to this season. So until we get to the final 10 games, anything could happen in those 10 games, couldn't they? If the season restarts with all of, you know, the variables that are coming into play, players being fit, how it's all going to be scheduled, you know, that's the crazy thing. Let's just talk about, you know, what he's done so far. He's done no worse than his predecessors, and he doesn't have Eden Hazard, and he's had a transfer ban, and he's had a crazy injury list to go with. So I think absolutely he's done maybe a little bit more than what's expected of him this season. He's not wildly overachieving, I don't think, but in contrast, when I spoke about this before, the injury list and losing Eden Hazard are two key factors here. And the fact he's only in his second year as a coach, and some of the games and some of the big wins he's been able to accomplish, I think are all impressive things. They really are. So absolutely he's doing what is expected from him this season, and maybe a little bit more. NB7 asks, what are your thoughts on the possibility of playing a diamond midfield next season? Intriguing. It's intriguing to see how all these players are going to fit in. We don't know who's going to be here next season and who we're potentially going to sign. I think that we won't sign many midfielders. I don't think we need to. It's who plays, you know. N'Golo Kante, if he was to come back into fitness, would he sit at the base there? Or are we looking more at a Billy Gilmore or Jorginho type creative player like we have recently at the base of midfield to dictate play, to be the metronome really in that area? And also you're thinking about the number 8s, you know, the Mason Mount, the Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Mateo Kovacic. How does Kovacic fit into that? Because we do want goal scorers in this midfield. It's what we've needed for so long. But I don't want to lose Mateo Kovacic in this midfield, because he is Chelsea's probably player of the season. And his skill, his flair, his confidence and impact on games, you need to have him in Chelsea's squad. Yes, he doesn't score as many goals, but his impact within games is huge, even without that. But I could see it. I mean, I've always taken quite a relaxed approach this year because of the amount of formations Frank Lampard has played. Don't rule anything out, really don't rule anything out, because Lampard's still finding his feet, still finding his best formation. We've gone to a 4-3-3 recently, which I think personally is my preference of a formation, but we could see something different in the future. So those are my thoughts. I think there is a possibility, of course. Killer Cons asks, who can you see being the future captain of Chelsea out of the current players when Asby sits back and if Jorginho goes? Personally, I could see Ethan Ampadu or Billy Gilmore. They hold the most leadership traits, I believe. Absolutely, those two players you've named definitely look like they could be those players. They've got that maturity already. I'm going to throw out a name here. I think Fikayo Tomori could be a player that you could see as captain. I just naturally, of course, with JT, I like seeing a centre-back or a defender as captain. I think that's probably the best way of going about it. They can very much see the whole pitch and lead by example. Of course, there are some incredible captains who've played in central midfield. Of course, that's just a bias in terms of being a Chelsea fan and seeing, of course, Dave and of course JT recently. But I think, yeah, definitely those players all could have those traits. That's sort of looking down the line. I think if I'm looking at the next captain, you are looking at Jorginho, probably, who's the vice captain at the moment. If he stays a little bit longer, I think he'll definitely get the captaincy if Aspi is faded out of the team and Reece James takes his place. And then potential. I've always said Rudiger, but you know, Rudiger's future is a little bit like that. You don't really know how long he's going to be here for, especially if Lampard changes that defence. But at the moment, he's a first team player, so he could potentially be a captain. But I would say Tomori. I just think there's that natural sort of confidence, and I see him on the pitch. He's very vocal on the pitch for a young player. It's going to be intriguing, absolutely, in the future to see who would be the future captain. Ampadu's a good shout as well. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell to never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @son of Chelsea, and I'll see you again.